Bartholomew Town.
Welcome into Bartholomew Town, where you can find us wherever you get your favorite podcast, ripodcast.com, and now new times on the weekend on WPRO. We're going to be airing twice on Saturdays, 8 a.m. and 4 p.m., wherever you listen to radio, whether that's 99.7 FM, AM 630, or 99.7 WPRO.com. As we do each and every month, we go inside communications with Half Street Group founder and president Mike Rea. No different this month as we take a look back at some of our, I guess, I don't know if we call it best, but the things that impacted us and our thoughts on some of what 2025 was made of. Mike, as always, thanks for your time.
Thanks for having me, Bill. I'll just call it what it is. It's December. We're kind of like, not that we're mailing it in, but let's just do a little bit of a recap episode.
I love that is inside communications right there, folks. If you are just getting started in the PR business in any way, shape, or form, sending pitches on December, 19th for something, and you might want to hold it till after we get back.
The only thing, and we've told our clients, like, if you're sending out a press release in when people really want to be at Garden City finishing up their Christmas shopping, it's probably a press release that you don't want to be sending, and it means that you're probably a little bit behind the eight ball. So hold those good ideas, hold those things about what your legislative priorities are going to be. Hold that until the first week and second week of January. The Journal's going to be doing their recap interviews with they just did the governor. I'm sure they'll do the Senate president. I'm sure they'll do the speaker in the next couple of days. Keep that groundbreaking until now that we've hit December 11th, keep that groundbreaking until next year.
Yeah. I remember when I was first out of college and I was in New York, I was working as a paralegal, and I think it was December 15th or 16th, but my boss came in and he said, "Oh yeah. Don't do anything. Don't call anybody or ask anybody for anything until we get back for the new year, because ostensibly we're done. We're here. We have work to do, but it's a different vibe. So very important."
That's a January conversation.
Exactly. Well, look, there's so many things that when we think of broadly speaking media. And I think this is a really relevant conversation as well, because the media you consume and kind of the way you approach entertainment or news or other informational media, whatever it may be, impacts how you deliver it. So you, as somebody who, whether it's on a broad campaign, a single sentence or word in a message, you're constantly gathering source material. So from that standpoint, this is a highly relevant conversation and an informed one, but it's also, at the end of the day, we're just kind of reflecting on some of the things that impacted us this year. And we'll begin with, what's the book books that really stuck out to you here in 2025?
Yeah, I think, and maybe some of your listeners can get some good Christmas or Hanukkah gift ideas as they listen in with us. I think you're right in kind of framing it of there's a ton of different content or mediums that people consume. I just did a media training I do this every November and December at Providence College with their faculty. And in talking with them, remind them, most people are using their cell phone as their alarm clock. And when they pick up their cell phone, they immediately jump into an app. And by the time they drive into the office, an hour and a half or 2 hours after they wake up in the morning, they've probably consumed as much media as their parents did 20 years ago over the course of an entire day. So there is a ton of competition out there for our attention. There's a ton of different means that you are trying to get things. And frankly, for me, at least personally, I'm dead tired by the end of the day, and I'm done scrolling. I don't want to look at a screen anymore. And over the course of this year, my wife and I both set a goal of, we wanted to read X number of books. Now, she set a much, much higher goal than I did. But then again, the kind of books that we're both interested in are very, very disparate. I much prefer something nonfiction and something where I can see it being turned into a docuseries on Netflix or something else, and she can absorb and power through novels several times a week. So her goal was a little bit higher. I hit mine yesterday. But there's three that kind of stand out to me, and they each kind of hit a different thing. So one, and I think the first one, part of this is kind of a family vacation that my family took to Ireland this year, and I kind of delved back into my own Irish heritage and my family's of background in some of the counties along the call it a border or call it an imaginary border, Ireland, Northern Ireland line in County Sligo and County Leitrim. The oral history of Bloody Sunday. It's a book called On Bloody Sunday by Julianne Campbell. It's about this thick, about 2.5 inches thick, something in the neighborhood of 1,000 different interviews that she did and source material written in classic oral history standard of people who were participating in the Peace March in Derry, who were then fired upon by the British Army. And to me, in reading it, and I was reading it as some of the conversation about some of the Democratic congressional leaders standing up and informing American military about what their rights and responsibilities are for an illegal order. With the Trump administration's response to that, it was really poignant to be reading this story about what happened on January 30th, 1972, I believe, and what's happening today, and some of the lessons to be able to be learned from that. In that, these orders from authoritarian figures, these over militarization of military operations in civilian communities. It just seemed very, very poignant in that some of the lessons that those of us who paid attention to what was happening in the north of Ireland during that period of time, we can see not necessarily the same kind of Catholic Protestant or those type of things here in the States, but certainly things to be able to draw upon.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's extremely interesting. As you were saying that, I was Googling the book, and yeah, I mean, look, the lessons right there are so relevant to so many aspects of what's happening in front of us today. And I think the corollary with those Democratic senators, or I should say members of Congress, that stood up and basically said, hey, if you don't believe in where we're heading right now, there's a moral guideline for you to take a look at some of these what are definitely questionable orders, whether it's with boats being blown up off the coast of Venezuela or whatever it is. And it just really reframes the American body politic right now in a way that I don't know if anyone saw it coming, but it's real.
No, and it's an interesting kind of juxtaposition of these things that kind of fall. At Providence College, we had the Western Civ curricula, where we studied the development of Western civilization from the very, very early history in ancient Rome, ancient Greece, and prior, up to right around the time of the Good Friday Agreement. I think I remember that being the last lecture in the class. And we see a lot of these things do come, and it's a tired cliche. Like we all know this, like history, like those who don't read history are destined to repeat it. And we're certainly seeing aspects of that in what is happening in today's current affairs. But it's also just a really well done oral history becomes something that you're in that conversation. Like that is a heavy, like Bloody Sunday and the entire story of the Troubles is a heavy, heavy topic. But when you're reading it in that oral history sense, it's like you're sitting at someone's kitchen table or you're sitting in a pub with them, and you're hearing that first accord of what happened on that day. And not everybody in there's a reliable narrator, of course. And you've got to be able to take the fact that everybody's had 50, 60 years of time to be able to tell their own version of those stories of what preceded that day and what came out of it. But there is something to be able to do that and be able to get there. And it became like I was set before bed. I'd read 40, 50 pages of it, and I felt like I was having a conversation with an interesting person. And it brought me back to that sense when we were on vacation and we were in County Kerry or we were in County Mayo, and like, sitting down and just having the conversation with someone my parents' age and telling us about like what the walk to school used to be like, or what used to be at the corner and isn't there anymore. So it brought me back to some of that. Yeah. What do you get? I want to hear some of your books.
Sure. Well, I think the one that
I'm taking notes.
Oh, look out. Well, I think the one that jumps out to me, it's Life After Cars, Freeing Ourselves from the Tyranny of the Automobile. That's by Aaron Naparstek, Doug Gordon, and Sarah Goodyear. Now, I came into this, Sarah Goodyear and Doug Gordon are the hosts of a podcast called It's not Life After Cars. I'm saying the War on Cars, pardon me, is the name of their podcast. And look, I always approach these kinds of topics with the mindset of, look, I'm not giving up my car. We're in Rhode Island, and it's just not going to happen. But what's intriguing here is I did a live podcast with Doug and Sarah at the Uptown Theater about a week ago. Great turnout. And there's so much to discuss about transit and so much to reimagine with transit, especially now in the context of the Washington Bridge. The fact that, okay, let's throw a couple of ferries out there to try to get across the Seekonk River and call it a day.
That was the best private, but that was the best private yacht in Rhode Island for a week and a half.
I mean, it really was. I'm sure someday there'll be vintage photographs of somebody on like the fourth or fifth, journey from the banks of the ferry landing in Providence across the river. I mean, these will be like historic artifacts, but it's just, I think it's an interesting conversation because multimodal transit, it sometimes gets blasted into extremes. Oh, we're only going to have bike lanes and buses, or nope, I'll never be a participant in that. It's just disruptive. It hurts businesses. And we've seen a lot of that here. I think the South Water Street bike lanes are a really interesting debate. We've covered that here on the podcast with business owners and advocates. And
I will say, as a South Water Street business owner, bring the bike lanes, like keep it there, give the opportunity to be able to come in. And I think that Mayor Smiley had a good compromise where there is a lot of space on that sidewalk to be able to move things over there. The traffic that does get backed up I often time my commute home from Bacaro to El Forno, and it can take 20 minutes along those lines. It's not the fault of the bike lanes. That's the fault of a bridge that's not functioning.
Yes. I think it's such an important conversation to have. And the reality is that there are different ways to look at this broad conversation. And this book is really good at offering examples around the world and also just kind of conversations. And I think opening up the conversation around multimodal transit is something that could benefit Rhode Island a lot more. There's been a little bit in terms of rail. There was a meeting a couple of weeks ago, DOT held. We know the cuts at RIPTA. Again, as somebody who's very car dependent, I'm all over the state. I'm all over the region now. I'm often in Boston, down to New York. There's just no way I'm going to commit to not having a car in my lifetime. I can't imagine that. But if you're telling me on the 4th of July or for the holiday tree lighting at outside of City Hall, if I could hop on some kind of trolley or train or small style bus or even the bus itself, if it was more of a direct route, and not have to drive around in circles and try to park downtown or park at the convention center garage, I would certainly consider that. And I think a lot of people would as well. So just kind of modernizes and I think it takes that conversation into a more of a moderate lane.
I got another one for you that's kind of similar to that. It wasn't on my list, but I just pulled up my Goodreads to see what the other ones that I went through this year. It's a book called The Address Book, What Street Addresses Reveal About Your Identity by Deirdre Mask. Got it for Christmas last year. It was one that I remember pouring through pretty quickly. And it's in some ways, it reads a little bit like a New Yorker article over the course of 250 something pages, but it hits on some of those same type of things. Like, what kind of access do you have to be able to get around? What are these streets, and how do the street names and how do the access to those streets and zoning and other things be able to identify what kind of profession you might have or opportunity you might have? But it definitely sounds like it hits on some of those same things. I got two others I was bringing to the pod for today.
Certainly.
The first is I don't know if you ever listen to the QI podcast and the super irreverent, fun opportunity to be able to geek out about things and kind of have it makes you a more interesting guest at a dinner party, or gives you something that's a little bit off the beaten path to be able to talk about at the Little League game. They wrote a book. James Harkin, one of the hosts of the podcast, wrote a book called Load of Old Balls. It is a laugh out loud funny history of different sports. Everything from cricket to lacrosse to some of these, and I wish that I had pulled it back out to take the real notes on it, but things along the lines of using pig intestines to be able to kick around in indigenous communities in South America, like those type of things, and how sport is and competition in games are a part of every culture and every community and every functional society. And it does, like, it gets a little bit political in some aspects of it, where it talks about how in many ways sports can also be co-opted, or sports can be some of the first things that totalitarian and authoritarian leaders try to take over or try to push themselves away. And it, again, goes into some of these things that we're seeing right now with the FIFA Peace Prize and some of the other things that we're seeing the Trump administration try to lean into. The other one I got, and this one has no politics related to it in any capacity. Really, it was a poolside read for me after the Little League All-Star season. The Last Manager by John Miller. It's a biography of Earl Weaver, the legendary Orioles manager from the 70s and the 80s. John Miller is either the play-by-play or the color announcer for the Orioles. Surprisingly good writer. Tells the story of Earl Weaver's chip on the shoulder that he got because he was overlooked when he was in the minor leagues. He didn't get his opportunity to really be able to break into the majors. And he carried that chip on his shoulder with him through a career in St. Louis, in Baltimore, and was just this fiery character who gave a crap about everything. Like, it was like, you were going to do things the right way, and you're going to do them the Oriole way, was kind of what came through in all of it. And it's just a compelling read. I got through it in 2 or 3 days, walked out, forgot all of these stories I knew as a Maryland native of Earl Weaver. And I think I immediately texted my brother and my father, and I just said, Netflix needs to do a documentary on Earl Weaver. It would be, I mean, one, it would have a TVMA rating with he gives Lenny Dykstra a run for his money with his language, but would just be amazing. And if only John Boy existed when Earl Weaver was a manager, to be able to get the lip reading arguments that he had with umpires, it would have been legendary. And the guy was made for the TikTok era.
Yes. No, that sounds amazing. I got one more that really is a super important one to me. Just came out. Me Here, You There. My 3 decades overnight under the covers schmoozing sports as Captain Midnight for WFAN. This is a memoir by Steve Summers, who was the overnight host on WFAN Sports Radio in New York for, again, 3 decades. One of the most amazing sports talk, actually sports media things that I've ever encountered. I was a huge fan of WFAN when I lived in New York, and particularly Steve Summers, just an incredible character. The show is amazing. You'd have literally people like Jerry Seinfeld calling in as callers, and in fact, Seinfeld writes the foreword to this book. It's an incredible recap of New York sports and the specific dynamics that New York sports play in the community. You know, sports, even if you're not a Yankees or Mets fan, it's kind of like the Patriots are here. Everybody knows kind of what's going on. You think of the back page of the New York Post, you think about 660 WFAN, super relevant, and in a place where performing at the highest level in the entertainment space is a must. Summers really changed the game. He along with Mike Francesa and Chris Russo, really changed the medium of sports talk and talk in general. So it's an incredible book. It literally just came out. I highly recommend it if you have any interest in
that's awesome.
that arena.
It's awesome. I mean, when you think about FAN, like, it not only changed radio and changed the way that people consume sports, it changed the way that our generation and the generation right older than us talked about and conversed with each other. Like, I can go back to my conversations and like when I was hanging out with my high school friends in my parents' basement, or when we got together in the basement of my first house, like, our conversations were that same style of talk radio. We would create these debates with each other about who is the best left-handed home run hitter and we could go 45 minutes, 60 minutes on any of those arcane and like seemingly trivial topics, and without that kind of WFAN influence on talk radio, like, none of us would have been conditioned to have that kind of conversation.
No,
it's fantastic,
no doubt, and also just the level of expertise and preparation that went into those shows. Steve Summers, he was kind of famous for having those yellow legal pads just filled to the brim for every show with notes and information and stats. So it wasn't just, sometimes you hear sports talkers just kind of riffing or saying, oh, what would happen if we changed the lineup? And that's the question. How about some actual stats? And that can be applied into the general media landscape, and I think it should probably a little bit more. the preparation that goes into delivering something like that.
I love that. Can you still get WFAN up here? Like, yes. I remember when I was in college, like I used to be able to I would pick it up driving from DC up to Providence for school, and I'd flip FAN on probably around the time I got to the Delaware toll going into New Jersey. And I remember being able to keep the signal all the way up to kind of the 1 mile marker near the old GTEC building on 95.
Oh yeah,
up here. Like I haven't tried recently. You still able to pull it?
I tried. With the changes in the Mets yesterday. You know, Pete Alonso. We're recording this on Thursday, December 11th. Yesterday was not a great day for Mets fans, and I thought,
no, condolences, Chris Rea. Your Mets look like they forgot that they have a Steve Cohen budget.
A shocking turn of events, no doubt. But I thought when I got out of the Dan York show at 6 o'clock yesterday, I thought, I want to hear what Evan Roberts has to say about this on WFAN. Sure enough, 66 blasting through, going over traffic in the Washington Bridge. And I was able to pick up New York radio. So no doubt about it, really intriguing. Before we get to it's kind of our recap of some of our best and worst Rhode Island stories, do you have a show that you'd recommend over the holidays people binge?
Bartholomew Town.
You've been hearing me talk a lot about Navigant Credit Union, and for good reason. As Rhode Island's first ever member-owned credit union, Navigant Credit Union has been a staple in the local business community for more than 108 years. Today, Navigant is a $3.4 billion institution serving more than 136,000 members across 25 physical branch locations. But since its founding in 1915, the mission has never changed. Navigant Credit Union's team of financial professionals have remained committed to improving the financial well-being of the families, businesses, and communities they serve across Rhode Island. Learn more at navigantcu.org. Half Street Group brings a new generation's perspective to leadership communications, strategic public relations, and digital marketing. Half Street helps organizations and leaders take control of their own stories and manage their reputations. They get results for their clients by focusing on audience, message, and culture, and by leveraging their decade-long relationship with media and opinion leaders in the Ocean State and throughout New England. Join me and Half Street Group founder and president Mike Rea for a conversation every month about news of the day, the hottest media analysis, and a look behind the scenes at how impactful leaders drive conversations. You can learn more at halfstreetgroup.com. Bartholomew Town is brought to you in part by Newport Film. Check out newportfilm.com for all the latest screening details. Are you ready to take the next step in your career? At URI Online, we offer business and leadership-focused programs designed to fit your life. Whether your goal is to advance your career in fields like public administration, supply chain management, or training and development, our online programs provide the flexibility you need with the high-quality education you deserve. Learn from experienced faculty and collaborate with a network of professionals, all from the comfort of your home or wherever life takes you. Visit uri.edu/online to explore programs and start building your future today. URI Online. Learn anywhere with us.
Yep, I got a couple real quick ones. First off, PSA, West Wing is back on Netflix.
Yep.
Those of us of a certain generation and a certain political persuasion, if you're just looking to escape reality, I probably did 7 or 8 rewatches on the old DVDs that I had of it. That's on my list. The other one that flies a little bit below the radar. It was a True TV show. True, TRU, the channel, not a true show. Sitcom, I'm Sorry. It's Andrea Savage, Tom Everett Scott, a bunch of comic alumni from the Upright Citizens Brigade. It is the funniest sitcom that I've watched in 10 years. It got canceled because of COVID. It's not for the faint of heart. It's not something I want my parents to watch, or at least I don't want them to tell me that they've watched it. My wife and I have probably rewatched this now 3 times. I still laugh out loud to it. There are still jokes that I missed the first time through. Andrea Savage might be one of the most talented bit comics of this current generation that's out there. It's a lot of the same humor, a lot of the same talent that was a part of the league. Don't know what it's streaming on right now, but I highly, highly recommend go find I'm Sorry on a streaming platform. Watch it after you put the kids to bed. 30 minutes. You can do 2 episodes a night without feeling overburdened by it.
I've got one that I had never heard of before that my partner told me about, and it's an amazing show. We're going all the way back to 2002 for this one. It's called Kath and Kim. It's an Australian sitcom. They only made 4 seasons. It was a primetime show on ABC television, Australian broadcasting. This is one of the funniest things I've ever seen, and the characters are so great. And why I really love it right now is that when we look at some of the great shows, I don't know if we talk about any of them, Black Mirror, any of the shows that have come out in recent years on the streamers, even the way movies look today, the way they're shot, it feels, it's great. It's modern, no doubt about it. But to go back to an era at the turn of the century and to see just the choices in lighting and the simplicity of some of those sitcoms from that era, and to find what I'd never heard of that's, to me, arguably the funniest sitcom from that period that I've ever seen. I'm loving it, and I'm loving that I'm watching something that is foreign and a lot of people haven't heard of before. You feel like you're in some kind of secret club, but it's hilarious. The episodes move fast. They're the standard sitcom, 22 minutes. You can blast through the whole show, but certainly a season very quickly. Super funny. Also really funny to hear the perspective and to see Australian culture, which I don't know that much about. And that's my pick right there. If you're going to binge something looking for fun and something that you can kind of surprise people with, because it's not one of the top shows on Netflix right now, for example.
Love it. All right. So should we get to the meat of it? Should we talk a little bit about Rhode Island?
Yeah. Let's start at the bottom of the barrel. Worst Rhode Island story of the year for you.
So I mean, this is the 3rd end of year episode that we've done in the 3rd year that we could probably talk about the Washington Bridge and Peter Alvidi's political dementia in terms of what actually happened in those first handful of days when he broke the news that the bridge was being closed. We could talk about Hasbro. We could talk about the hazing at a variety of different high schools. We could talk about the fact that there are a number of people in this state that think that the Real Housewives of Rhode Island is a net positive for the state. Mm-hmm. But I think the worst story has to be the Assistant Attorney General in Newport flagging about whatever that mid-level AG job is, thinking that that's going to be able to keep her in the bar.
Yeah.
Now, I will say this, though, it's not like the fact that we got regional and national headlines off of this, and it was kind of pointing to it was just like, it brought me back to the calamari comeback. We were getting attention for the wrong things. We were yes, we had our restaurants in the news. We had our tourist destinations in the news, but for all the wrong reasons. Now, that said, the restaurant's response was perfect. Because within 24 hours of this breaking on, and I don't know if it was Go Local or if it was Channel 10, whoever it was that broke the story first, but within 24 hours of the story becoming coffee table conversation or water cooler conversation all across the state, they rolled out a mocktail titled, "I'm an Assistant AG." Brilliant. They were able to take this whole thing and be able to say, we are not letting her take our narrative. She's in her own area. We're going to show that we've got a sense of humor, and rolled it out. And actually, I'll be honest, I had it. Good mocktail.
All right.
Okay. They hit it out of the park with it. So like A plus on their part. But I mean, I was just talking to my team before we set this, I probably could have come up with 6 or 7 other stories that we just want to bang our head against the wall. I'm not even going to take a minute to talk anymore, or maybe I'll take 1 minute. I was listening to Alvidi this morning. We're doing this podcast on December 11th, which is the 2-year anniversary of the bridge closing. I listened to Gene Valicenti this morning to hear what Director Alvidi had to say about the bridge. And I just, it's at a point of infuriation and frustration at this point of 2 years on. And this guy still cannot stop congratulating himself for doing and for all of the actions that he's taken, and has no self-awareness whatsoever about the economic impact that his mismanagement has caused. Yes, it was the correct move to close the bridge for public safety purposes. But the same thing can also be true that the director of DOT and those around him have mismanaged the communications and all of the other operational efforts around it, and that he has not been held accountable by anybody in this state other than Zach Kuna.
I completely agree. And, it's difficult to not put this on top of any list of worst stories of the year. It's unbelievable to hear the director. And we've said it before, and I think it's totally true. It's an exercise in what not to do in crisis communications and the lack of accountability. Even if you want to make the argument, well, they're they're suing the 13 contractors the state can't admit, or the percentage of responsibility is going to increase on the state's behalf, or whatever it is. I mean, please. Rhode Islanders have had it with whether it's the micro communications on an interview, a line here or there. This is, we did a great job with this bridge in Richmond 5 years ago. So, and all these other bridges.
But how do we know? But Bill, even on that, though, how do we know we did a great job?
That's a great
because
point.
What came out in the hearing a couple of weeks ago was that we only know we're doing a great job because we're outsourcing all of the ability to tell us we're doing a great job. And that the only bridge that process didn't work on is the Washington Bridge. But we have nobody in the state that has been able to verify or been able to show that approach, or that those things, or that the things that we're hearing from those third-party vendors are true.
I completely agree. We're taking someone at their word, who right now their word seems to be, I don't want to say meaningless, but boy, is it close. And it's an incredibly frustrating situation.
It is. And the thing is, it's worse than meaningless. I mean, when you come at it from kind of our lane and in kind of the communications, it's non-credible. And in many ways, like when we talk with our clients about their ability to be able to manage through and maintain their reputation, which is the most valuable and also the most fragile asset that they have, the ability to maintain credibility is paramount. And when you see him go out, when you see him argue with individuals, and it is, I use that terminology of like it's political dementia on his accord, because I really think he believes what he's putting out there. It's not like it's not gaslighting anymore. Like, I do fundamentally think that he believes that he said all along that the bridge was going to take until 2028 to be able to reopen. He forgets or conveniently ignores the fact that he stood up on a podium and was backed by others in the administration and elsewhere that the bridge would be reopened in 3 months. He ignores the fact that there was a bid that didn't get a single response from anybody because it was written with politically incentivized deadlines. And he then congratulates himself on Gene Valicenti this morning, saying that, we needed to go back and we were more thoughtful, we were more thorough, and now we have the right thing. They're ignoring the fact that not a single vendor applied the first time, that they didn't make a single phone call to potential bidders beforehand to find out, hey guys, what's wrong with this? Why hasn't anyone put anything in? What do we need to change? To be able to get a bid in a more aligned time. And then they go out and they throw, and I said, I was like, we're only going to talk a minute or two about this. I'm sorry, I'm going down on a rabbit hole. But this shows like year after year after year that this is still the biggest story in Rhode Island. But they put the thing that I think is just like particularly grating on this, and from the conference, they put these signs up. Thank you for your patience while we demo the bridge. Thank you for your patience while we keep you safe. First off, 18 months too late. Second, no one cares about you demoing the bridge. Show us that you understand what the frustration is. It's not that we're frustrated with traffic. It's not that we're frustrated that the bridge was not maintained. Those things, yes, they're a concern. But what we're frustrated with is that 2 years into this, we have not seen anybody held accountable, and we've not seen anybody in a position of responsibility for it to even acknowledge that they might be a little bit responsible, or that they might have had some form of a leadership role, and they're just passing the buck off to somebody else. And that crap doesn't work with my fourth grader.
That's right. It's unbelievable. And by the way, thank you for your patience. Yeah, the signs are horrendous. And then they got the one that says we're on time, on budget, it's just unbelievable. But hey, thank you for your patience as we demo the bridge. Those are electronic signs that can be updated. 2 weeks ago, they put out a press release saying, hey, congratulations to us, the demo is completed. So they can't even be on top of their own visual communications that are digital signs. It's unbelievable. I've never seen anything like it. But that's not my word.
Something happier.
Yeah, let's exactly. The bridge.
What's your bad?
Well, that I think the hazing incident. I mean, you and I are both involved in youth sports and have been for a long time. And look, hazing is a part of youth sports, particularly high school sports. There's no doubt. Sometimes it's fun, and I remember my soccer team and my golf team had dramatically different hazing scenarios. Soccer was not so fun. I did not like being an underclassman there. Golf was kind of fun because you had to go run wind sprints in golf attire. Okay, there's a big difference.
Yeah, like there's something different between I look at like the rookies in Major League Baseball who have to like go in full uniform to go get Starbucks for the whole team. Like that's different. Yeah. Like that, like those type of things. Like that's fun. Like you're bringing people in. Like you're joshing them a little bit. But I'm in full favor of what Dan McGowan recommended in his column. Like give these schools the death penalty. Like. If you are a coach that allows a culture, whether you're aware of it or not, if you allow a culture of what we saw in Smithfield, what we saw in Newport to happen, you're done.
You're done.
Your program gets suspended for a year. You lose your job, or you have to go in front of the city council to be able to keep it, and hold everybody accountable to it. And yeah, it sucks for the 90% of the kids that don't participate in it, but that's a team.
It's a team. And, I've said it a couple of times on radio, on TV, and on the pod. But look, the idea is the superintendent in Smithfield reinstated those seniors, those 5 players, after whatever sort of short-term suspension. They were originally suspended for the whole season. The head coach in Smithfield, he is the only person that can make a decision who goes on the field. A court can't compel a coach you to play. ADs can't. Parents groups, players union, and the players union can't call Mike Vrabel and say, hey, you've got to play whoever. That's the exclusive domain of the head coach. So the idea that the head coach in Smithfield put those kids back on the field after they admitted to violent hazing, you want to separate it from the anti-Semitic allegations, that's your choice out there. If you want to be that person, say, okay, it wasn't anti-Semitic. Okay. They admitted to locking an underclassman in a bathroom stall and spraying him in the face with Lysol. If I'm that head coach, I don't care what the superintendent says. You can be on the roster, but you're not getting in the game. Yep. Total fall down, worst story of the year. Best story of the year, though, in Rhode Island is...
I think there's kind of two places to put this. And it kills me to jump into this pop culture area. Taylor Swift getting married in Rhode Island is a big deal. This is one where it puts Ocean House and Westerly on an international map as a destination. It will bring a ton of commerce, a ton of dollars, a ton of attention to what's actually more known as just a regional destination. And I think it's going to be able to allow Rhode Island to be able to market not just Newport, not just Providence, but also the South County and the Westerly region as a place on par with Hyannis and Provincetown and these other northeastern destinations for international communities. So Taylor Swift deciding to make Rhode Island a part of her and Travis Kelce's day, that's a big deal. And it'll be easy to laugh about. It's easy to write off as a pop culture sensation, but there's a reason that people flock to portions of Fifth Avenue. There's a reason that people look to go to the Hollywood sign. This is going to give us something that we're able to put a real flag on the map in a way that Calamari Comeback Town did not. The other one that I want to say, and I think this is one that I've just been inspired by, and I've seen a handful of our clients really get involved in this. There are a lot of Rhode Island organizations and Rhode Island leaders who are really stepping up and punching above their weight to be able to speak out against some of the most dangerous parts of the Trump administration's agenda right now. I think we just saw it recently with the way that a number of housing advocates came together with help from our under leadership from our client Crossroads to raise concerns about changes that HUD was making to the way that they award federal funding. You've now seen Crossroads and Youth Pride Rhode Island step up as Rhode Island entities to be able to challenge that in the courts. There is real leadership here in Rhode Island across the gamut of stepping up and playing regional and national roles and providing examples for what other social impact and social service leaders can do. So kudos to all of those leaders who are stepping up and showing leadership and fighting on behalf of their clients, their constituents, and their programs.
I completely agree. It's been a pleasure to see, inclusive of that Crossroads led your client Crossroads led initiative or participant in the initiative. Certainly here locally, Crossroads was the stakeholder, so to speak. You know, there's so many different things that you see on a day-to-day basis that are good stories or good news. And there's something that jumps out to me. In years past, as a member of the arts community and a musician, there's been a lot of venues that have closed or spaces that have closed. And I think this year, the big story for me, or one of the big stories that are good, is that in spite of challenging headwinds, we've seen some really interesting initiatives take place here in Rhode Island. And one of them is kind of an overlap with Taylor Swift at the United Theater in Westerly, which Rhode Islanders voted as part of an arts bond in 2016 to make some significant investments into this historic theater. Taylor Swift's dad is actually involved in a partnership down there, and they've created what's called Nashville North. So now all of a sudden, in tandem with the Taylor Swift wedding and all of that, you've got on the art side, the United Theater working with the Bluebird Cafe, which is one of the most legendary venues in Nashville, doing artist exchanges, and then that kind of bolsters the national reputation of Westerly, Rhode Island, and Rhode Island on the whole. You've got more and more artists coming through there and bringing traffic to a restored downtown, creating the ultimate third space. Similarly, the owners of the Comedy Connection bought the old Columbus Theater, which was dilapidated. I mean, the last time I played at the Columbus Theater during the sound check, literally the stage above the roof collapsed, like in parts. And we were like, okay, this is probably the last time we're going to be in here. Sure enough, Comedy Connection guys bought it, revived it. It looks amazing. It sounds amazing. They've had all kinds of cool things happening there already. And another shout out, Myrtle in East Providence, literally at the heart of the impact of the Washington Bridge and the breakdown there. They have found a way to be just an incredible community connector. They were threatened with being essentially having their license revoked about a year ago because of noise complaints. They've overcome that, went before the city council. So what I'm seeing right now in the arts and entertainment space, you could also make the argument broadly with Tidewater and from the soccer standpoint, we're seeing more third spaces come online and be full of people in Rhode Island. That's a good thing because people, post-COVID, we need to connect with each other. Arts, entertainment, they're all great places to do that. And in years past, it's been the opposite story of places closing. Now we have what I would argue would be at minimum an exciting, if not thriving ecosystem here. And you're right, it just attracts economic development. Look, you talk to business owners near Myrtle, the pizza place, the cafe down the street, the gas station. I've done that because I've been curious about it from the standpoint of the Washington Bridge. And they say, yeah, the bridge is a disaster. It's impacting our businesses. But the good news is that 5-6 nights a week, and sometimes in the afternoon, Myrtle is attracting a whole new crowd from a regional basis. They come here, they go get pizza, they can fill up their tank. That's true economic development in an organic way. And to do it in spite of the fact that right now is not a good time to be in East Providence business, kudos there.
Yeah, no, I got to give the shout out. The Comedy Connection crew has been amazing with being able to fill that venue, and their schedule is packed.
Yeah,
and the fact I haven't gotten to Columbus Theater for any of the programming that they've got there yet, but the fact that you see on their billboard or their marquee all the time, like every Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday night, like they've got a full slate. The line is around the door. My son goes to we'll drive by there to go to a batting cage right nearby occasionally, and you'll see it. You've got the all generations too. You've got millennials, you've got Gen Z, you've got folks my parents' age, all lined up to go see these comics that they're bringing in who are real tier comics. Like these are folks that you've seen on Netflix. They're folks you've seen on HBO. So hats off to them on all of that stuff. It's been fun.
Yeah, it's been great. You got a resolution for 2026?
I need to think more about it a little bit. I know, so I really got into golf over the last couple of years. My son has gotten into it. It gives me and him something to do. I grew up playing with my grandfather, but then didn't play for a long time in my late 20s and through my 30s. I'd love to see myself get bring my 13, 14 handicap down into the single digits. And I think to be able to do that, I've got to be able to work in a little bit of time to stretch my old bones, and commit maybe to some yoga or a regular stretching routine. So I think that's what I'm going to go with.
Yeah, that's a good one. I'm kind of on a similar basis. I'm just trying to find more time for that as well. I've never been happier in recent times than on the days where I do yoga or exercise, or even this year I started boxing, not against opponents, but against, just like with a bag and things. I never saw myself.
Oh, Bill, that would make for I think you, like let's throw you and York into the ring during one of the broadcasts. I think that'd be for great radio fodder.
I would not be surprised if he had some kind of mean left hook. Dan York comes in.
Oh, he'd kick your ass.
He would kick my ass quickly. Absolutely. He'd kick anybody's ass. Mike Gray, at Half Street Group, Inside Communications, another great year here on the podcast. Remember, it's halfstreetgroup.com, and reach out to Mike no matter what your organization is looking for, whether it's from a messaging standpoint or from a much more macro standpoint. You're not going to get better advice than from Half Street Group and all the great work that you do. And by the way, folks, you see Mike's footprints all over this. You do a great job with the work that you do with your clients. And it is, I know a Half Street client when I see it at this point. I think you do an amazing job without flashing, hey, take a look at us. You really let your clients take the lead and be themselves. It's not cookie cutter. And you've, behind the scenes, had a huge impact. A lot of Rhode Islanders might not realize the impact that you've had on some of the organizations and individuals at times that really shape our state. So kudos to you.
Awesome. Oh, I appreciate that, Bill. We work hard at it. We know that we're only as good as our clients, and we try to put them first, put them as the leading role in anything. And ultimately their success is our best business development. Yeah. But this has been fun. I'm glad that we got to do this for another year, and looking forward to kicking things off with you again in the new year, and wishing nothing but a great holiday and a happy and healthy new year.
Same to you and yours. Talk soon.
Talk to you, buddy.
Bartholomew Town is brought to you by Navigant Credit Union, Half Street Group, the University of Rhode Island Online, and Newport Film.